Ramos, there's a drive, deep left center, Cubs win!
Montero drives one in the air, deep right field, it's got a chance, grand slam!
Way back it might be, it could be, Cubs win, Cubs win, Cubs win, holy cow!
The Dingers podcast is on the air. I'm your host, Mitch. Today we got a great episode for you. We have an interview with Kyle from the Setup Man. He is out at spring training right now. So he's been, if you follow him, which hopefully you are, on X, on Instagram, on his YouTube channel, you see that he's posting daily videos of spring training. You see, he just posted a video of Brandon Hughes pitching, and the other day, Justin Steele, his bullpen, and he's amazing. He does some great interviews. Just had an interview with Matt Shaw. Highly recommend you check that out. But the dude is phenomenal with his Cubs content. So reached out to him, got an interview with just the vibe at spring training, and got into all the things happening out there, what it's like to take part in going out to a spring training. So hopefully you guys enjoy this interview with the great Kyle from the Setup Man. From the Dingers podcast, and it's time to make a call to the pen. Bring on the righty. Are you a righty?
I am a righty.
Awesome. He throws absolute gas out of the pen. We're joined by the Setup Man, Kyle, and we're excited to have him. If you follow him on YouTube or X, you know that he's putting out great Cubs content. So we're pleased to welcome Kyle from the Setup Man on the Dingers podcast. Mitch,
thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. A couple years ago, like, the word with the Cubs was vibe. Like, it's a vibe. Like, and you're at spring training right now. Like, what is the vibe at spring training with the Cubs? Like, it's been kind of like an up and down roller coaster of an off season. And we just had some crazy news of, like, the Bregman thing going on. What's the vibe at spring training right now?
I love this question because, like, you think, like, if you've never been to spring training or you've never been to CubsCon, and you're like, what's the vibe? And it's like, I don't know that there's, like, enough going on to feel a vibe from the players. But what I will say is, from a fan standpoint, this is my second spring training coming, like, the practices. The amount of fans that are here is a lot more than last year, a lot more. So, like, there's a little autograph area that I'm looking at over here. Last year it was like 2 or 3 people. Now it's like 10 to 12. You got a ton of people that are trying to, get Kyle Tucker's autograph. You got a ton of people that are trying to get Shota Imanaga. A lot of Japanese media, a lot of Japanese fans this year, whereas, like, last year, I think there was just a few. And I just think that that's a really cool thing to see out here from myself. It makes it a little harder for me to get some content sometimes because I'm battling with, like, trying to shoot over people's heads and stuff, but it's fun. And then, like, from a player, coaches standpoint, all that kind of stuff, what was really interesting for me this time around is it's a lot chiller this year. Like, practices feel like they're starting later. There's less going on, like, during those practices. But I think, like, with this only being year 2 for me, I think I want to say maybe last year was the exception because it was Craig Counsell's first year. Maybe he just wanted to, like, get into things and, like, just get a lot of stuff going so that he could see all the guys, where now he's a little bit more familiar and he just wants the guys to be healthy and he wants the guys to, like, do things based on their schedule. A lot of these players have been living here in Arizona since, like, the end of the season. And so for that reason, I think there's just a little bit more of, like, hey, we don't have to, like, do so much. Let's just do, like, a 3-hour practice instead of a 4 or 5-hour practice like last year. So, yeah, it's a little more laid back, but it's fun. I'll say one thing: it was really fun seeing Kyle Tucker in the full Cubs uni the other day. That was cool.
Yeah, he looked good.
Yeah.
He looked good in that baby blue hat. I like the spring training hats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been to Cubs spring training. Played college baseball, and we played some games in Florida and got to go to some spring training games in Florida. But I've never been to Mesa, never been to
Awesome.
Cubs. We just had a conversation with my wife. Like, we need to sometime take a trip out there. What is it like as a fan, or like for you? Like, how much do you get to like see and experience like with spring training?
It's so much fun, man. Like, this is the World Series for Cubs fans, for any fans, or you can call it the Christmas for fans. Like, just this morning, as soon as I'm walking up here, Matt Shaw is signing a bunch of autographs, and I walk over, and I had him on my channel last month, and hey Kyle, or hey Matt, it's Kyle, and oh hey Kyle, how long you here for? And you're just chatting like you're, running into a friend at the mall kind of thing. Ben Brown was over here. I had him on my channel last month as well, and I'm the only one here at Fuel One right now, and Ben's walking in and out, and I was just like, hey, what's up, Ben? And I'm like, man, all these like autograph guys over here, they're missing out on Ben over here, and I'm just get to have a 2-3 minute conversation with Ben, and it's really cool, man. Like, it's just such a laid back vibe. I will say it's not like that with everyone. There's some guys that are just like they're in like, I'm focused. I don't want to deal with any outside distractions, which is fine. But this is all open, free to the public. Like, I get DMs all the time from people that are like, "Hey, like, how do you get a media credential, or how much does it cost to get in there?" I'm like, guys, this is free. Like, all the things I'm doing, I don't have a media credential. I'm not paying to get in here. I'm looking at all the coaches getting ready over right here right now. Like, there's literally no one here. And then once the practices start around like 10:30, it'll just flood with fans. So if you're going to come out early. If you're going to come later, stay later, because that's when all the players leave and they go back to their cars and everyone's gone. And it's like photographs, autographs, having even conversations with players. Justin Steele has come up a bunch over here and just talks to all the autographers and stuff, including myself. Just, it's fun. It's really cool. I can't explain it, except for it's just like, it's like you get to just run into your favorite player at the mall and have a conversation. Like, that's the cool part about it.
Yeah, I need to next couple of years, that'll be a trip that my wife and I take out and take kids, maybe go out and see. The Cubs have done quite a bit of job in remaking their bullpen. Their bench, it looks a lot different than last year. But we still have some holes. Like, they're still like, okay, we're going to try maybe Canario at first base as a backup. We have Birdie that can maybe float around to third or second. Like, are you concerned with that we haven't done enough like to fill in those holes? We've spent so much time trying to go after like Bregman, or maybe that's been where the focus was, but have we done enough to fill in those holes to be able to have a good bench, to be able to support the stars that are pretty locked in at their positions?
Yeah, I think the bullpen is set. I think Jed did a really good job with the bullpen this offseason. Had we not gotten the big names like Presley and Brazier, I wouldn't have said the same. But you have impact plus depth this year, and there's some guys that could surprise us. Like, Phil Bickford looked good. Brandon Hughes looked good yesterday. This guy, Ben Heller, Brad Keller, who Tyler Zombro is really high on, by the way.
Yep.
There's a lot of excitement out of the bullpen, and I think that they'll be able to deal with injuries a lot better out of the bullpen this year. The starters, I really, really, really thought we were going to get an impact starter over the offseason. Now you're really hoping Matt Boyd stays healthy. You're hoping that Javier Assad stays healthy. He's already dealing with an oblique issue. So then what's your backup? It's Jordan Wicks and Colin Ray. And that just feels like if they're in the hunt by the trade deadline, that's going to be the number one target. The bench, though, to your question, I don't know. With us being $32 million short right now of the tax threshold, plus the bench looking the way it is, it just feels like there's another move coming. I hope it's a Justin Turner type of move. I don't have the free agents in front of me right now. I know there's been other talks of other free agents from people, but like Justin Turner just feels like a really good option there. Canario being forced at first base, I don't know. I always feel like they just like say, hey, oh, go play first base. Like, let's just throw this guy at first base. I mean, Michael Busch last year didn't look great at first base during spring training, and then found a way to make it not only work, but like by the end of the season last year, he looked like he was a Gold Glove first baseman. It took a while though. Like I don't think that just happens overnight. So yeah, that worries me. There's not, aside from Canario, there's not a lot of pop off the bench. Carson Kelly, I don't know the last time he hit double-digit home runs. John Birdie doesn't hit home runs. Vidal Brujan doesn't hit home runs. Gage Workman, but I was just talking to a friend about him. Like, are we really like, just because he was a Rule 5 draft pick, we just assume he's going to be on the roster? Like, the dude's never even seen a pitch in AAA. I know he's got a great glove. I know, especially if this Matt Shaw injury doesn't continue to heal, which it sounds like it is after talking this morning. It sounds like he's pretty much ready to go in a couple days here. Then maybe Gage Workman fits in the roster, but I have a hard time thinking like, oh yeah, he's got a great glove, and because we got him in the Rule 5 draft, we're just going to throw him on the 26-man roster that's already compacted. It feels like a push to me. So, but yeah, to make a long story short, I think they are one move away from the bench, and I would be surprised if they don't make that move.
Speaking of with offense, so it's been kind of the trend the last couple of years where the Cubs offense is kind of just taking a vacation for a month or two, and you just go through those stretches where just nobody's clicking. It's just struggle to score runs. Do you think they've done enough? I mean, Kyle Tucker will help probably stabilize because of his consistency at the plate.
Mm-hmm.
But what I look at is like the Miguel Amayas, the PCAs who took a big step last year in the second half. Do you think the offense has enough now with some young guys that have kind of got over the hump a little bit to be able to stabilize that offense throughout the whole year?
I think if in July you told me they were bottom third offense, I wouldn't be surprised. And if you told me in July that they were top 5 offense, I also wouldn't be surprised. And the thing is, we can't like underestimate enough how much of an impact Kyle Tucker makes in this lineup. I think I don't want to throw out like a really big projection here, but I just think about a guy like Seiya Suzuki who has had so much pressure to like take the next step. And now he's not going to be in the field. He doesn't have to worry about criticism of as being an outfielder. And instead of like being the guy in the lineup, now he's the guy behind the guy. I can see a really big year out of Seiya Suzuki because the pressure is just off. And man, the way that he hits at spring training here, like the ball just it's crazy, dude. Like you watch this guy in BP and you're like, this guy's a 35 to 40 home run guy. And then you look at his numbers, you're like 20, 21 home runs. What's going on? Like, so it's wild to me that he hasn't taken that next step. And I think he has a really good shot this year. And for that reason, my point being is I just think Kyle Tucker just completely changes the look of this lineup. Plus, we haven't talked a lot about it. He's a stolen base threat too. Like now, PCA plus Nico plus Kyle Tucker, 3 legitimate stolen base threats in that lineup.
And Matt
really
Shaw,
exciting.
like Matt Shaw's stolen quite a bit of bases in the minors too. So throw him in there. He's got speed.
Yeah. So you've got a different look lineup, but to your point, like Amaya, Shaw, PCA, Dansby, Nico, those are all guys that had these up and down offensive seasons. At any point during a season, most of these guys are still going to have up and downs. But if Nico has a more Nico type of season consistently offensively, if Dansby, if he doesn't need to slug 775 like he did with the Braves last year, but if he has a 740, or sorry, not slug, OPS, but if he has a 740 OPS and is just a little bit more consistent, he becomes a 5.64 player. PCA, if he just does what he did in the second half and doesn't do what he did in the first half, just his slump is just a little bit more manageable. Same thing with Amaya. Man, I mean, like, those are all really positive things. And if Matt Shaw is a 2.5 WAR player like Fangraphs thinks he'll be, that's a lot better than the third base situation we had last year. So there's a lot to be excited about, but it would, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if you were like, hey, PCA is back struggling, Amaya is back struggling, Nico isn't hitting with runners in scoring position, Dansby is dealing with some injuries. Like that wouldn't surprise me either. So there's gonna be a lot to be seen by midpoint of the season.
Most position players, it's like a lock. Like we have our guys that are probably gonna be starters. But there's injuries, like you said, that happen throughout the season. Who are some of the guys? Like I live in Iowa. I spend a lot of time going to a lot of Iowa Cubs games.
Nice.
We have guys that can step in. Who do you see down there that could really make an impact on the team this year?
Where do I start? There's so many, man. I'll tell you what, I think the two biggest wild cards that could either be in AAA or back and forth between AAA and the majors, it's Ben Brown and Cade Horton. Like Cade Horton, you think about where we were a year ago, we were like, yeah, by June he's coming in and he's starting and he might even be an ace by the end of the season. And then he had the back injury. If he's healthy, which it looks like he has been, he's thrown some bullpens out here. I've been next to him when he said he feels really good. So all the signs point to good things from him. Ben Brown is going to be throwing to live batters today, so I'm really excited to get that on film and to see what he looks like. I worry about the organization stretching them out and trying to throw them into the starting position, but that's what the Cubs need right now is maybe one more leverage guy, maybe one more starter. And if both of those guys are healthy and both those guys are dealing, you could be seeing, one in the rotation and one in the bullpen. And that, if they're producing and they're doing a bang up job, that changes the look of this pitching staff dramatically. Aside from that, I really am excited for a full season of Luke Little. I mean, he was really starting to feel it last year when he got injured. And then, the thing for the position players, Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara and James Triantos and Moises Ballesteros, I'm just like, man, there's going to have to be an injury or something for those guys to get playing time, because you don't want to bring up Moises Ballesteros and Owen Casey and say you're going to get the Alexander Canario treatment and just get a couple at bats every 7 days. I don't think that's good for them. I don't think that helps anyone. So to me, if Seiya goes down with an oblique thing, if Ian Happ goes down with a hamstring thing, okay, let's see what Owen's got. Same thing with Ballesteros. Maybe Carson Kelly is dealing with a little something, a little groin. I don't know. And Ballesteros comes up and can be that number 2 catcher for a couple weeks. That to me is where they step in. And maybe if they produce, which is really difficult, by the way, Mitch, it's, the AAA and Major League gap, you don't expect these guys to come in and start producing right away. Christopher Morel, when he did that back in 2022, that was the outlier. Maybe they can stay on the roster after that, but they're going to have a lot of pressure on themselves to produce right away if they get that chance.
So what you're saying is it's gonna be a fun year to watch Iowa Cubs baseball.
I think it's gonna be a fun year to watch both, but I'm just really interested to see. We usually have these plans, right? Of this guy's gonna come around this time. This year, it's like I don't know where these guys fit, which is why I'm kind of surprised that there weren't more trades this offseason with the prospects. But I'm also glad about that, because you look at the 2026 roster after 2026, there's not a lot of guys left on this team. So I think the prospects need to stay.
Yeah, and it was really hard when I lived in Ames. We went to a ton of Iowa Cubs games and got to know a lot of the prospects, and then they're getting traded. And it's like, hey, I know this guy. I have a connection, and then he's gone. So it's tough to deal with prospects, and you learn to like them. And you're like, okay, this guy's a good dude, and then gets traded away, but you still get to follow his career with another team. Who else that you've seen so far in spring training? They're like, man, that he looks sharp, or it's look good. I know Justin Steele, you showed his video, looked sharp right away in his first outing.
Yeah.
Talk about Brandon Hughes is back and he looked good. Who are somebody else that you like? Man, he looked really good.
Porter Hodge looked really good yesterday. Saw 4 batters, albeit minor league batters, but struck out all 4. And kind of back to my point, there hasn't been a ton of guys, or there hasn't been a ton of really intense practices yet. So it's tough for me to say that. I feel like if you ask me that question again in 3 days, I might have a better answer for you. But Steele and Hodge are the first ones that come to mind. Ben, you know what? Ben Cowles is really fun to watch in the infield. He's got a smooth glove. I didn't know that about him. I didn't know anything about his fielding. I've heard he's a pretty decent hitter, but his glove really has impressed me.
Sweet. Well, I'll let you go because I know you have to get out, and they're going to be starting practice here pretty soon. You want to get over there and see all that. So thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Keep killing the content for the Cubs. We as Cubs fans appreciate all the videos and everything you're putting out there. So keep doing that. Make sure you go and subscribe to his YouTube channel, Setup Man on YouTube, and follow him on Twitter. Is there anywhere else?
Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok is all at Setup Man Kyle.
Yep. So thanks for joining us. Appreciate you stepping in and giving your time, especially being out at spring training. So thanks a lot, Kyle.
Thanks, Mitch.
It's Mitch from the Dingers podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about something that's truly transformed the way that I, as a coach, work with young players, and especially my own kids. I'm talking about the B4 Bat app. For those who haven't heard of the B4 Bat app, it is an incredible tool that lets you track your exit velocity, launch angle, and more, all from your iPhone. No fancy bat sensor or expensive equipment needed. Just your iPhone, a tripod, and you're good to go. I use the B4 Bat app daily with my son and daughter, and the results have been phenomenal. It provides valuable data and video feedback that helps fine-tune their swing. My son absolutely loves it. He gets a kick out of watching his videos of his swing and especially enjoys tracking his exit velocity. It's like a game for him, trying to find that perfect launch angle to maximize his exit velocity. For me, it's been amazing to see how much this app has really helped improve their swings. And that immediate feedback and data that they get are a game changer. So if you're looking to get that valuable data and insight for your own slugger and for them to hit maybe some more dingers this season, I highly recommend checking out B4 Batting app. You can go to b4.app.com or search B4 Batting in the App Store. Trust me, you and your kids will love it. Now, let's get back to hitting some more dingers. Thanks for joining us in this episode of the Dingers podcast. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Kyle from the Setup Man. The dude is awesome, so make sure you're subscribing and following him in all those places. But yeah, excited that spring training is here. Hopefully we have games coming in like 12 days, and the season will be here before we know it, like 36 days, and they're in Japan playing a game. So excited that baseball is back, even though it's snowing here in Iowa a lot. So thanks for listening, and go Cubs.